Hey Soul Fam, so I got called away from my peaceful ranch life to come do grid work at the pyramids and the churches, and it happens to be Holy Week, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know why I was coming here, but now that I'm here, I'm being shown all the symbolism of the Catholic Church and how they do negative alien implants, which is when Lisa Renee talks about negative alien implants a lot, but now I'm really understanding what it actually is. So, our collective mythology, the stories that we tell, our heroes, whether or not you're Christian, Jesus is a collective mythology, the story of Jesus. Like, even if you're Muslim, you know the story of Jesus, right? So, he's this character that exists in our human psyche. And when they parade his body around all dead and bloody, and I'm going into a lot of these churches and they just have like random bloody statues of Jesus that are not even like related to the supposed story of what they say happened to him with his death. They'll just have like a super bloody Jesus in a coffin, or a super bloody Jesus looking all sad, like looking at you like this, sitting down, right? It's a mockery. And what this is doing to our collective psyche, it's implanting a trauma in our light body, because we are evolving. And what I'm noticing as I'm going around, and you can see this too as you become more fluent in symbols, a lot of the churches, so the churches are holy places, the churches are alive. A lot of times they're built out of beautiful stone, and stones have powers, and the Catholic churches are built over sacred holy sites. So all through Europe, they built them on top of goddess sites, on top of the springs. All throughout the Americas, they built them on top of pyramids. They actually, in Mexico City, they disassembled some pyramids and built a church on top of it. So they're claiming that sacred site that's a sacred site on a ley line, and they're claiming it for the secret society Masonic temple, right? So they're using a lot of sacred geometry, sacred symbols. These symbols communicate directly with our subconscious mind. So they're using a lot of magical stuff that holds power, but then they're inverting it. So in the church, there will be a beautiful sun window, right? And the sun represents solar consciousness, it represents evolution. But then they'll put like a bloody Jesus right over it. So you're like looking at the sun, but then there's a bloody Jesus like intersecting it. So as you're looking around, whenever you go to a church, it's important that you witness Yeshua as living. Witness him as living. The stories that they tell us are not true. The Bible is truth mixed with lies. They've distorted it. They took out the book of Mary Magdalene, which was all about looking within for the answers, finding God within. And it's just all super distorted. So the Catholic Church is using all kinds of sacred symbols that have a lot of power, and even have power to uplift or to create beautiful structures. Masons, what does that mean? That's stone builders, right? So they could build these beautiful buildings, and they build these beautiful buildings. I spent all day touring in this like palace of a museum. I didn't even know what I was going into. I thought it was going to be like a small museum with 2 rooms, and it was this whole huge Masonic like palace. And the architecture is beautiful, but if you know what you're looking at, it's embedded with evil symbols, and they invert it, and they're harnessing the power. For example, the water, where they collect the water. So water is very programmable, and water is very important. It's in our bodies, it's in the whole earth. Water is holding memory, water is holding frequency and vibration. So just one of the many things that I noticed was that all of the water things were like where it would rain, and the gutters, right, had all these weird like little demon faces, like collecting the water. So the water is getting filtered through these little demon faces, right? And this is something that they did in Europe, like the Vatican. There's sacred springs there, and they have demons guarding these sacred springs. So it's important that we become fluent in the symbols, because there's symbols everywhere. The McDonald's sign is a symbol. Everything is a symbol, and the symbols cut through directly to your subconscious. So that's why when they torture people for example, for the rituals, for the mind control rituals, they know that if you torture someone in a ritualistic way, it's more traumatizing and more impactful, because the ritual cuts through to the subconscious when you use symbols. Likewise, I want to get my PhD in using rituals for healing, because similarly, you can go and sit in a therapy office and talk your head off and just go around in circles. However, if you do a healing ritual, a symbolic act, you know, carrying your sorrow to the sea as rocks and throwing it in or something like that, that communicates directly to your subconscious. But in all the pyramids, there's glyphs, hieroglyphs, okay? So these are universal symbols. This is a language. So there are universal symbols. And it's time that we awaken to this. You can even just set the intention. So if you want to combat there's constantly warfare going on against your psyche. There's symbols in everything, and there's subliminals in all the music and all the frequencies. Like, we got to wake up all the way. So just, I mean, it's a lot of information. What I recommend doing, what I've been doing, is just call upon the divine blueprint. Just say, I am restoring in myself the divine blueprint. So that means like what was intended for humanity, for us to live free, for us to live happy. Invoke the divine blueprint in yourself. And then we want to invoke the divine blueprint for these buildings, because the churches do have power, like the really tall, beautiful architecture. If you go in there, you can feel the majesty of it. And you can see some of the symbols are holy, but then they're inverting it. So we want to restore all of these things, the music, the symbols, the rituals, the religions, restore it to its divine blueprint, which is really just that we are God, okay? We are God. And Jesus was showing us what's possible, and his story has been so distorted and so used for oppression and used for war and used for killing and used to keep us down. And when they're doing the masses, they are literally speaking black magic spells over you.
Tenemos que preguntarnos, ¿por qué a veces seguimos siendo esclavos?
Okay, and all of the corporations in their logos, those are black magic, witchcraft symbols that cut through to your psyche. So it's time for us to get really curious. And when you open your mind, one way of learning things is simply asking open-ended questions like, what would it be like if I became fluent in symbols? Or how do I become fluent in symbols? Or what is the divine blueprint? Or what would it look like if I could restore the divine blueprint in me? So you want to be asking the right questions to direct your subconscious in the right direction. And as you ask these questions, even if it feels overwhelming or it's too much information or you don't know where to start, your subconscious will begin to be receptive to the solutions. So we want to focus on solutions. Focus on solutions and empowerment. The more we wake up, I was at this Catholic procession and I was like looking around. I'm like, who else is awake? This is a black magic ritual. I was like looking for someone, like who sees what's going on? And I turned to some tourists next to me. I'm like, this is a black magic ritual. And English was not their first language. They were from Europe and they were like, what? And I was like, it's a black magic ritual. And I think at first they thought I was crazy, but then as the ritual went on, like it was just so obvious. It's so obvious. Like the humans, we have to wake up. We have to wake up. So start asking yourself open-ended questions that point you in a direction that's empowering. You are powerful. You are God. You are sovereign. You are free. And just take what resonates with you and let your heart is your best GPS, your own heart. So we got to become fluent in symbols. We have to restore the divine blueprint. We have to take back the earth, and be free. No more taxes, no more property tax, no more rent. What is that? Why are we paying rent?